Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I am going to be talking about Monte Cook and the Cypher rule system, and specifically what I feel is a absolute game changer in the tabletop role-playing game arena, right? Specifically in tabletop role-playing game design. So I'm really fascinated with Monte Cook. I really feel that like 20, 40, 60 years from now, just like today, there are multiple books being written about Gary Gygax. And there should be books written about Gary Gygax. He is the father of a piece of Americana. So, Dungeons & Dragons is just like jazz, it's just like baseball, it's just like comic books, purely American invention that changed the world. And those types of products are all over the world now. And so that's really interesting, right? But right now, Monte Cook is changing the name of the game in tabletop role-playing game design. He is doing things now that I think will be in every single tabletop role-playing game that is widely respected and is good 5 to 10 years from now. So what am I talking about? So Monte Cook made the Cypher rule system, the Cypher system rule book. It is the generic rules that came out of the Numenera game, and it is a new GURPS, right? So GURPS is an very old, generic universal role-playing system. It has many fans. It is a good game. I never played it much, and one of the reasons why is there are things that happen in the industry, and there are companies in the industry that ignore trends, right? And GURPS really ignored trends. So one of the things that GURPS always did, they were always fantastic about creating content for their games, but bad art. And so their art was not good, and and their books were black and white. Huge problem, right? It's just really a very significant issue, right? And now Monte Cook has built a new GURPS, a new generic universal role-playing game system. He calls it the Cypher system rulebook. You can run anything with it. You can run a Harry Potter game with it. You can run a Transformers game. You can run your own version of what if the entire state of Omaha became vampires overnight, and then the game takes off from there. You can run anything with it, and you can do it quickly, and you can do it well. I was going to say, and actually, since you can buy the PDF for $20, maybe $30, you do it even cheaply, right? The core rulebook is $60. It's worth every penny. It's really a game changer of a book. It is a fantastic book. I want to talk about one aspect of the book that he changed. One aspect of his rules system that is different than any game I've ever seen in tabletop role-playing game history. And I've played probably between 50 and 100 role-playing games, and I've read easily between 100 and maybe 200 role-playing games, and I've researched probably close to 400 role-playing games, and this is by far one of the most innovative things I've ever seen done in any role-playing game ever, right? And it's a game changer. It's like when they added the three-point shot to basketball. It fundamentally changed the game overall, right? And so what am I talking about? And that is damage. In the Monte Cook game system, weapons, you do not roll for damage for weapons, okay? That is fundamentally different from many, many, many other role-playing games. But it goes further than that. There are only 3 types of weapons: light, medium, heavy weapons, right? Light weapons do 2 points of damage and give you a plus to hit, okay? Medium weapons do 4 points of damage and do not affect your roll. Heavy weapons do 6 points of damage. You must use 2 hands to use them, and that's it, right? That's it. He will lump spears and swords and rockets and machine guns and any and all weapons fall into those 3 brackets, right? Now, why is that revolutionary? Well, that is fundamentally revolutionary. It changes a lot. One of the reasons why is there's a podcast out there. It's called System Mastery. I highly recommend you go to those guys. They have a really unusual podcast. It's very good and very bad. One, I love it. It's absolutely genius. What they do is they just take old role-playing games and they review them for 1 hour. It's 2 guys and they do it together. What's the bad part? They have great content and terrible delivery, right? So one, there's a lot of cursing in it, which is really unfortunate because I think that turns a lot of people off that generally should like the show and should listen to the show. And the other thing is, I think these guys started this as just a joke, like, you know, oh, let's review some bad role-playing games. But they reviewed like 50, 60 games now. And what they've created is a library, an actual library of role-playing game content and reviewing role-playing games. But because they make a lot of dirty, racist jokes, sometimes racist jokes, and they put in a lot of, you know, adult like cursing and just talking about sex and stuff, it's very strange. It's the best, some of the best content with some of the worst delivery I've ever seen. And honestly, if this gets back to the System Mastery guys, I love your content. It deserves more than you're giving it. Like, it is better than you guys think it is. It is really valuable to the community, and you should treat it seriously because it's serious content. Just my take on it, right? Okay. Back to why Monte Cook is a genius and why damage is incredible. Why the way he is handling damage, the way Monte Cook designed damage from all weapons to be handled in his game. The whole system can be said in 3 sentences, right? But it just gets rid of just tables and tables and tables and tons of content, conversations, and just a whole bunch of nonsense that is in a bunch of books that make the books fatter without really making the books better. You know, makes it the page count higher, but it doesn't make the product better. Doesn't give anybody more fun, that kind of thing, right? His point is, what is the difference between a spear doing 7, one D6 or a D8? You know, like, it marginally is that big much of a difference that you have all these tables, you have all this minutia for what? You know, what are you getting from that, right? And once you've seen what it does, if you take all that silliness out, and honestly, I only say it's silliness because Monte Cook is a genius and and he designs role-playing games much the way Steve Jobs designed computers. Simplicity, elegance, right? Form, you know, thinking about form and how things are accomplished. And it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant content. And so it's really fascinating to me. What a great job he's done, and just how unique the product is. And so one of the reasons why is I recently obtained the Savage Worlds Rifts, right? And it's a brand new game, and it's a remake of an older game. But, you know, there were tables and tables and tables of this weapon does this much damage, and this weapon does this much damage, and this weapon does this much damage, rather than this is a light weapon, this is a medium weapon, this is a heavy weapon, right? Now, just so you're aware, in the game, he gives tools to the player characters that let those base values be very varied, right? There's parameters that are done in the game that give you a wide range of different damage values, but it's based on what the player is doing. It's not an arbitrary, silly extra detail that you have to remember that doesn't add a lot more, you know, to the game. It speeds up play so much better. There's no damage roll, right? So, you know, every other game in the world, roll to see if you're hit, roll to see if you know how much damage you do. Here in this game, you roll to see if you hit, and if you did, you do, I do six damage to that guy, and I have a special feature that adds 3 more points, so that's 9, right? And, you know, you don't have to do that extra roll, right? And also you're getting max damage on every hit, right? Which makes every player happy and makes the game run faster. and speed is king, and that is not new. The Mongols understood that speed was king. I work in the technology industry. Speed is king. Speed beats everything, right? And so, you know, Monte Cook's game runs faster and smoother and simpler and more elegantly. And this one change, light weapon, you get a bonus to hit, 2 damage. Medium weapon, 4 damage. Heavy weapon, 6 damage, is so good. And it makes, it revolutionizes the industry on how we deal with damage, because it shows that you don't need to have that damage roll. You don't need to determine if your longsword is a D10 or as opposed to a D8 for a short sword, and it's very effective. Now, if you haven't played Cypher, it'll be hard to see it, but when you've seen it in play, it is extremely good. Right now, I have run the Cypher rules system. I've done a Shadowrun game for the Nerdarchy guys, and so you can take a look at that if you want to see how it plays. But it is a really elegant game, and I think it fundamentally changes how damage is going to be dealt with in role-playing games overall. And, so I continue, my fascination with Monte Cook continues to ramp up. I really feel like he is a very special person in the history of role-playing games. What he is building now will be in most games in 5 to 10 years. And, you know, that is really, really fascinating to me that he's been able to do this, and it's really excellent. So if you get a chance, definitely buy Cypher Rules System. Fantastic system. You can play virtually anything with it. It runs great. It makes players happy, because the whole book is, I can do this. It's not, you can't do that, right? And it's just fantastic. So check it out. And if you want to see how every damage system will be 5, 10 years from now, look at what Monte Cook is doing today in tabletop role-playing game design. Take care.